So first of all, could you tell me more about your big expedition where you circumnavigated the globe?
Well, I had planned to ride my bike around the world in 2018,
Yeah.
and the initial idea was to try and attempt to be the fastest woman to ride around the world. And I didn't just want to break the record, I kind of wanted to go big. So I decided that I wanted to do this round the world thing in 100 days.
Mm-hmm.
And like kind of 100 days unsupported solo and all that. And so I was training for 200 miles per day, let's say. And so that was the plan, to go around the world in 100 days and try and break the record to be the fastest woman to do it. And I, as an 18-year-old who was planning it, it was incredibly hard to get sponsors on board, or even, get people to believe that, I can actually do that. But yeah, I started from Australia. So obviously I was going for Guinness World Records. So you have to start and finish at the same place. The journey should be in one direction, and you should be crossing two antipodal points. So for me, the antipodal points were Wellington in New Zealand and Madrid in Spain. And yeah, so I started from Australia, and the route kind of went Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Iceland, Portugal, Spain, France, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, from Finnish-Russian border to Ufa.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of not halfway, but a little bit across Russia, and then a really long route across India, and then back to my start line or finish line as well, which was Perth.
I read that you were robbed at knife point and you got
Oh, that
chased
was
by
in
bears.
Spain, yeah.
Like, what were some of the worst things that you experienced?
Oh, okay, worst. So in Australia, I was chased by some people who apparently were armed, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that was that wasn't great. That was one of the worst things, but it was good that I didn't know it until I got to Melbourne, and then I kind of tried to report it, and then I found out that, oh, actually they were not just dangerous people stalking me, they were actually like dangerous enough to kill me, which was really weird. But anyway, in Canada I got chased by a bear. um, and I was fascinated when I saw like 3 grizzly bears, and I wasn't really expecting to be tased. But like, because they weren't at quite a distance, but they were at enough distance for me to be like, oh, maybe they won't notice me. But yeah, I wasn't that lucky. And then yeah, one of them thought I was a danger to their kind, and yeah. I was really lucky that there was a big kind of lorry coming from the other side. And it was like a downhill for the lorry, so uphill for me. And yeah, I was on the wrong side of the road, which is also what made the lorry honk and screech its brakes and everything, which made the bear run away, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I was really lucky with that. But a couple of days into Spain, a couple of people on a motorbike were they were chasing. Well, they were stalking me, and then I was not paying attention. I was just like just ignore them, V, just ignore them, just keep riding your bike. That was what was going through my head. And then I heard they were saying things in Spanish to each other, or like me, like really loudly. And I don't understand Spanish, so I still ignored them. And then they would stop for me, wait for me to pass, and like then come right behind me, and like I could see and feel somebody behind me for a long time. And then at some point they just kind of came next to me, and then I thought I'd lost them because they weren't there for a long time. And I was like, oh, of course I've lost them. And then what seemed like a vehicle coming pretty fast, and it was this same motorbike, pushed me off. So they were riding, I was riding, pushed me off the bike. And when I fell, I was like, shit, shit, shit. And then I took my helmet strap off. I was like, whoever pushed me, I'm going to fucking throw this at them. I was so angry. But what happened next was one of the guys literally like was holding me and had like a knife right here. And the other guy was taking, like looking through all my stuff. He wasn't even taking anything, like looking through all my stuff at that point and like just figuring out. I could actually see them like fiddle with my bike bags and try and take it off and stuff. And and obviously my frame bag and stuff, it's never attached just with the Velcro stuff. It always has a what's it called, zip tie and things like that, because I like it in place and all that. But anyway, they couldn't take that off, but they were like trying to go through all my stuff. And this guy is like holding me at knife point and screaming some things at me. And I'm thinking, okay, right now, if I get super scared and try and run away from this or do anything stupid, then probably I'm gonna kind of get killed. So I was trying to distract myself from kind of the fear, anxiety, and like everything that can possibly be felt in a dangerous situation like that. And I was distracting myself by looking at the number plate and memorizing the numbers, because that's always been something that distracts me from anything. So I've been every time I've sat in like a taxi with a dangerous driver, I would look at other vehicles, their number plates, and memorize. And that's always been like a coping mechanism, I suppose. So I think that's what I did, like now that I think about it. And I was also trying to figure out if that guy looked like, if the guy resembled some Bollywood or Hollywood actor. And I was like, oh god, does he resemble anyone? Like, can I tell how his nose looks? Or like, so it's just like a bunch of things going through my head. But that didn't last very long, because I suppose they just figured that I'm on a bike, I don't have much stuff or whatever. But anyway, I was pushed off kind of the side of the road, was going uphill, so it was quite a way down, and I went down head first. And then I heard like a thud, which was my bike landing on me. And I was just like, oh, great. But like I was unconscious for a long time. After, I think, a day and a half, no, 40 odd hours, I got back on the road. And it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced, because my head hurt so bad. And like I couldn't keep any food down. And every time a vehicle passed me, it was horrible. Yeah, as far as bad incidents are considered, Spain wins.
Yeah, I can see why. So next year, I'm going to go out to British Columbia to do a documentary about the First Nations. So I was wondering if you learnt much about the Indigenous people of Canada whilst you were out there.
I didn't actually. No, I didn't. I wasn't able to, because, but when I was riding through the prairies, there were like the random kind of conversations I had with people there about hunting. Yeah, they were quite strange. Like the conversations were quite strange, not the people. The people were lovely. Like,
okay, fair enough. Also, I was looking at your website, and on it says that you did this trip mostly unsupported. So I was wondering what support you received and didn't.
It was actually in India, where my parents were like in 15 to 50-kilometer radius, just to make sure that I was safe. Because at that point, I don't know how much you know about Indian culture, but Indian parents aren't very open usually to their kids doing crazy things, let's
Okay.
say.
Mhm.
And largely, the country is not safe for women.
Mhm.
And considering that the temperatures were low, I was gonna have to wear shorts because I get really bad rashes and stuff. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice but to wear like cycling shorts and like any, not sleeveless but like normal jersey, but
Mhm.
something like cycling gear attracts attention, and you see a young girl alone, and there are so many people who like, even, oh god, yeah, India was where, because my parents were like around somewhere, I said that it was mostly supported, but like um it was quite bad because there were motorbikes and stuff who would just ride next to me and try and ask me questions, and ride close to me
Mhm.
and just say weird things and like weird sexual things, and it's uncomfortable. And I can understand why my parents wanted to be there. At the time that I was so mad at them, I was just like, I was not happy. I was just like, you're ruining my unsupported thing, was what I said. Now that I think back at it, I'm like, I was so selfish. I was only thinking about myself. And but yeah, that was the bit which kind of made me feel like I should write that it was mostly unsupported.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so then could I ask you how you obtained the funding for your trip and if you have any advice for others looking to fund their own expeditions?
Yeah, and I think like advice wise, I would say that putting yourself out there is so important. And I talk about that a bit on my social media as well, actually, because everyone thinks that unless they're good enough to do something, they shouldn't go for it. But actually, um, if you've done something on a smaller scale, then you're allowed to dream big. Like, you don't need to ask people who have done something big already always to, get permission to feel like you can do something big. I don't know if that you've kind of felt that too, but yeah, and like I think, yeah, putting yourself out there and actually reaching out to these companies, even if like you don't have the social media reach or whatever, because I didn't. I certainly didn't. I had like what, 400 or 500 followers. That's it.
Mhm.
And I remember reaching out to Mark Beaumont, and I had ridden from Bournemouth to Kendal to see him at Kendal Mountain Festival, and he'd given me a lot of advice, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And he had then posted about me on his social media, and then there were like quite a few people who then kind of followed me, and then suddenly I realized that, oh, probably this is how it works. Probably someone notices you, they talk about you, and then suddenly other people find it interesting, and maybe like that's how it works. But like I don't know, I still haven't figured it out. But
So you don't fit the typical explorer typecast. So like the white male that has a military background, um, how would you say, like, have you been discriminated in any way from gender, race, sexuality on your trips?
um I have been told a few times that as a girl I shouldn't be kind of, as a young girl I've been told that I shouldn't be traveling alone a lot, but but like on a much larger scale, I do feel like being someone with my background, it took, let's say it took 2 years for me to be on podcasts or me to be in magazines and stuff with people talking about what I did. I think that's something that um, for someone with my background takes a long time to, I don't know, achieve. It's really strange. Like it takes years for people to pick up on your story, and that's a bit weird when it wouldn't be like that if I, say, wasn't wasn't from like an Indian background, probably. I don't know. That was quite strange, but I wouldn't say that's discrimination right away though, because I wouldn't say that's what it was, because there's no way to point it out like that, is there? So I wouldn't say it, but quite a few people have said that I'm too young to do the things that I do. So like I also recently launched something called Adventure Planning Crash Course, and I run a business where I help other people plan their adventures, and I manage their expeditions for them and things like that. And I've been told that I'm too young for that, and I think that's something that I've definitely kind of been told the most so far, the fact that I'm young. And yeah.
Okay.
That's
So the business, is that the Adventure Shed?
the Adventure Shed, and through that I kind of help other people plan their adventures basically more efficiently.
How did that come about, and how successful would you say it's been?
I how did that come about? I came back from around the world, and I went back to uni to continue with sports management, and I realized in a few months that it wasn't really working for me. So I kind of dropped out of university, and I uh, and I was, at the time when I was still in university after Around the World, I was working with a guy who was planning to kind of go for this record to be the youngest person to walk to South Pole. And I had been, when I kind of was working, when I've been working with him, like I figured that there are some things that I'm actually like, I can see a business out of this, was how I was seeing it. Like I was thinking like, hang on, I can actually make sponsor proposals. I'm able to get sponsors on board. And then I just wanted to see if I could do it again. So I worked with another expedition, which I'm not allowed to talk about. And I was able to use like substantial amount of money for that. And I was like, shit, how, like, how the fuck, like I did that? How? Like I didn't know I could do that. And that was when I realized that actually, if I wanted to, I could, like, and like somehow everything came together, and I realized I was having a shit time in university as well. It's just really hard to just sit in classes and study what I didn't care about. And so I was just like, I'm not, it's useless paying for something that you're not really enjoying, or you're not paying enough attention to. So yeah, dropped out of university and set up the Adventure Shed, and then I had to apply for the correct visa to be able to run a business in the UK. So I went back to India, and I came with a provisional visa, but then lockdown happened and my provisional visa ran out. So like in the middle of lockdown, when my visa was extended, I had to come up with something that could bring in money so that I could afford to get the long-term visa that I had already applied for, but I was supposed to pay later. So I started Adventure Planning Crash Course. And then I spoke with some people within the industry who have done amazing things or who work within the industry. So like I spoke with Jenny Tuff. I think she was like my very first interview. Then I spoke with Matt Pycroft from like the Adventure Podcast and Cold House, and I spoke with him about like the media side of things. And again, I spoke with someone called Inger Kenobi. I spoke with Sophie Pavel. I spoke with Jonas Deichmann, and I recorded their interviews. And I told them that I'm gonna. Oh yeah, I spoke with Pip Stewart, and she was really awesome about it. She was just like. She's really happy about this, and she was like, oh, why don't you do like a takeover on my channel and things like that. So like really helpful. And after like this whole thing was set up, so all the interviews, I made some audio recordings and some short videos about like explaining each element of planning an adventure. And I got a couple of sponsors on board. So I got Komoot on board, and I got an outdoor provisions on board, and then I literally went on Teachable and set up the course, and I made a workbook, and like this was what I spent the entire lockdown working on.
Yes.
I made that massive workbook. So for every element of planning an adventure, there is like a workbook, and then when it kind of comes together, you basically have like your adventure planning blueprint. Basically, like for any adventure that you plan from like doing that course, you essentially can use the same kind of template to plan your next one. And so on. So that was kind of my idea. I just went in a really long form about it. And
okay. I have one last question for you, and it is, what's next?
Oh, sorry, fell off the exercise ball. Next, well, a lot. I am planning an Arctic expedition, but that's not for another couple of years. Also planning to go around the world again, which is also not for a few years. But like immediately upcoming is I'm creating a route in the southwest England, and I'm creating a route crossing the best of southwest region. Basically, that's what the route is called, best of southwest. And then I'm working with like Adventure CC to write about it, and I'm making a short film about it, and I've got quite a few kind of sponsors and partners involved with this. And yeah, and the idea is that probably long term this 1,000 kilometer loop could turn into a race, or it could turn into something that I can take people on for, like, you know, a bike packing training workshop or whatever. I don't know, like, you know, just getting other people involved with more bike packing, more adventures, and getting them outside. And the biggest project, I think, like that I'm working on right now, is I'm writing a book. It's called The Need for Adventure, and I'm exploring kind of things in two angles, let's say. One is talking about the purpose behind some of the most inspiring adventures that have taken place so far. And another is talking about why every single person needs adventure. And then I have several approaches to this. So there's like a seek approach, where people go on adventures to kind of experience, to explore. Then there's socialize approach, which is to meet other people, or, you know, which is mostly like university clubs and things, or why people kind of meet up and go on adventures. And also to kind of understand the social connections better by going out. But yeah, that one. And then there is also like a share approach, where people go on adventures to talk about adventures, and, you know, to share the story, and to talk about nature basically, and yeah, the geographical and historical factors of various places that they go to and all that. So yeah, basically. And then I'm interviewing hundreds of kind of people in the industry, and I will kind of be yeah, talking to them, interviewing them, and then whatever kind of however the conversation goes, in whatever angle, I can then kind of fit it into those approaches, and then yeah, just talk about the need for adventure. Yeah, in fact, I would love to kind of send you some questions about it if you were down for it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. I'd be happy with that. Okay, well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. Like,
no worries.
it was great talking to you.
Yeah, bye.